Okay. We are back in open session already. There are no presentations.
Nope.
There's no presentations tonight and no taking positive steps of service awards, correct?
Okay.
Okay. Public input. Is anybody here for public input?
Nobody signed up.
Okay. Next is consent agenda items. Items in this section will be adopted as a group. Unless a board member requests a specific item to be removed from consent agenda and addressed separately. We have approval of the minutes from May 9th. We have payroll checks, direct deposits, account payable checks, and credit card payments under vouchers. No fundraiser request, no fundraiser report. One field trip request for next year for the Washington, D.C. trip. Nothing under committee approval, recommendations for approval. Under other, we have the WIA membership renewal, the middle school staff handbook, high school, middle school, elementary school, OSC, and primary school discipline reports. And then we received a $19,220 fast forward grant from the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. Under resignation and retirement, we have primary school 4K educational assistant, primary school physical education teacher, a long-term physical education substitute, a business education teacher, an assistant basketball coach, a German exchange coordinator, 2 assistant volleyball coaches, a 5th grade teacher, a junior class advisor, elementary OSC physical education teacher, social studies building representative, and a middle school special education assistant. Co-curricular is a long one, hang on. Volunteer volleyball coach, social studies building representative, 2 10-day extended contracts for counselors, extended contract for agriculture, 30 days, the FFA advisor, the fair coordinator, forensics heads coach, forensics assistant, 2 freshman class advisors, 2 sophomore class advisors, 2 junior class advisors, 2 50% Thailand exchange coordinators, 1 50% German exchange coordinator, the Spanish exchange coordinator, and then 2 50% leadership council. We have mock trial, robotics, esports, color guard, extended choral services, pep band, marching band, pit orchestra, musical director, musical vocal director, musical choreographer director, musical set design, play director, play set design, National Honor Society yearbook, art club, visual arts classic, 2 for Link crew, 2 for PBIS coaches, the athletic director, mock trial assistant, 2 for homecoming, 2 for senior class advisor, and the newspaper advocate, and then 2 at 50% for the multicultural club. Under community program crew, we have pay increase for 4 people, crew wrestling coach, crew volunteer, and a crew lifeguard. Under regular staff, we have 4K and early childhood teacher, summer school, we have EAs for summer school teachers, and then we have 5 summer school education assistants changing to teacher. We have elementary school OSC music teacher and middle school choir. We have art teacher agreement, primary school and elementary school OSC art teacher. We have 5 for the summer custodial staff. We have a register administrative assistant to student services. We have accounts payable, high school English teacher, high school administrative assistant wage increase, a nursing contract, and a primary school physical education teacher. Personnel under, we have leave without pay for 1, 2, 3, 4 people, and administrative professional improvement request.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with additional approval of acceptance of the $19,220 grant, fast forward grant from the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development.
I'll second.
Motion by Angie and a second by Barb. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. First on the agenda, we have the strategic plan implementation update information.
Yeah, so it's just little over a year ago, our Vision Element Study Team facilitated 2 conversations for our future events, which were attended by over 100 community members, staff, and students. The Vision Element Study Team took the input from the community about the priorities they had set for our district and developed a strategic plan for the district. The board adopted and approved the strategic plan at their July 2021 board meeting. By approving the strategic plan, the board charged us as administrators with implementing this plan. As been shared at several board meetings throughout the year, the district developed a district balance scorecard, which you can see on the screen and which is on our website, to implement the strategic plan. which was then cascaded down to building levels in the form of building level scorecards. So if you go on the website, you can see the district level scorecards and a scorecard for each specific building. The board and administration had a retreat in January of 2022, which each building went over their individual balanced scorecard with the Board of Education. So we've now come to the end of the 2021-22 school year, and the staff has spent time reflecting and stoplighting the building balance scorecard and the district balance scorecard. Stoplighting means we add the colors, as you see at the end, based on the data from each area of the balance scorecard. So if you see red, our goal was not met. Yellow, the end result was very close to success, but not quite. And then green, the goal was met. The district and building level scorecards can be, as I said, on the district website. They can be found there. If you look through the scorecards, you'll see there are 2 areas where the district level goals were clearly not met, 5 areas where the district or building goals were close to being met, but not quite, and 10 areas where the district's goals were met. We've spent time as an administrative team reflecting on this process. We were happy with all the goals we met, but still reflect on how we made the progress and what our next steps will be and all the work that our staff has put in to make this as successful as it was. We looked at areas we didn't meet goals and reflected on why we didn't meet those goals. Was it because it was a poorly written goal, or because we picked the wrong strategy to achieve the goal, or we didn't implement the strategy with fidelity? A good example of how this reflection can work would be discussing the writing. We wrote a goal that 100% of our students will complete a career in academic planning. With everything going on this year, COVID, kids being out of school, was it really a good idea to write 100% of anything with kids, right? So tonight you'll hear from Sarah Weber when she talks about our middle school, and they had 96% of our student body complete an academic and career goal. However, if you look on the scorecard, it's yellow because it's not 100, right? So we made significant gains compared to where we have been in the past. So that's a reflection when we look back, like, that was probably not a great wording for that goal. And there's other ones we didn't do with fidelity, right? There's a couple in the red that we just didn't get to this year. So to review this information tonight, we thought we'd try something a little different. The board has heard from me several times on strategic plan and the scorecards. They've heard from our administrative team at the retreat in January. We thought it'd be great to hear from our staff directly involved in the implementation of high-confidence strategies that are being used to meet the priorities that were set for us by the community in the strategic planning process. So we're going to do a gallery walk tonight. We will have staff members here from each of the buildings to talk about a strategy that they have implemented this year. I'm going to split the board members and community members up, and we're going to start at one of the stations. You'll be there for about 10 minutes, and then we rotate clockwise till you do all 4 stations. So this will be the primary school, elementary school, NOSC, middle school, and high school. So we're going to start with board members. Adam and Heather are going to start there. Angie and Scott are going to start there. And Christy, Barb, and Terry. We'll go there. So at each station, before you go, this is bad teaching on my part, right? Horrible teaching. I should have gave other directions first before I told you where to go. At each station, an administrator will give you a brief overview of the station's area and domain, right? They will then introduce the staff members who will share high-confidence strategies for supporting this area. I really want to thank our staff members for being here tonight and their willingness to share their experiences with the board. A reminder that we're going to rotate every 10 minutes, so I'll set a timer on my phone. I'll give you a 1-minute warning. Another reminder as you walk around the room, like one of these, you may get done a little early. Please remember there are active microphones everywhere in this room, right? So one of the things that happens when you get done is like, hey Heather, how's your daughter doing, right? And you start having a personal conversation. If you don't want to have that conversation broadcast out to the community, you can't have it in this building, in this room, right? So all these different mics pick up different things. So just be cognizant of that. All right, so I am going to have board members and staff, if you would like to go there. And when we get everybody where they need to be, community members, feel free to join any group and just follow along with that group as well. So if community members maybe want to start with the high school.
Exactly, it's just like we'll set it. We want this to be, I think, I did just like a little bit in your top.
kind of share this with
All right.
Bella was one of our 5 competencies that's Nestle Howard. She's a first grade teacher. One of our strategic plan, ensuring the academic and career ready that we can. So we are focusing on the one measure for this year. And these are the highlights really 4th through 2nd grade. The first one is integrity, which focuses on human awareness. Phonics and reading is our phonics program. The things in blue are all the lessons, so we're focusing in on that. And then there's Sarah is a middle school teacher who really took on and we actually today. We're going
And just so you all know, life skills is a course that covers a lot of health topics as well as career readiness topics. That's where Zello comes in. So I actually did Zello. I get most of the kids at the middle school in my life skills class, but there were a few kids that I didn't quite have in life skills. I haven't done that. Moving forward, I'm hoping to have more students in life skills who have like a more kind of, I guess, better way of carrying out the kids who are missing my class, just to make sure that my students are getting something that's really cool about Zello is that students get to personalize what they do with the kids. And so in 6th grade they take a career and allows them to figure out which interests they might like and how those interests connect to careers. And what's really cool is you can actually put like an area of a career and the students can then find specific interests and then if I send that area or do last there, right? There's a lot of feelings might not know taking on this. So Zello's really cool at giving them the opportunity to base them on interests as well as just but the thing is, all as I'm saying, is to enjoy the personalization aspects, and something that was really cool was in grades 7 and 8, they were asking me, can I take my survey so that I can see different careers? My interests have changed, right? Because when they go through middle school, exactly the same person, there's a lot of growth going on there. So, as I've learned about Zello over the year, I've been able to better cater it to students so they can go ahead and choose so they're going to moving forward, this is something that I'm going to have to wait.
Absolutely love what I added to
that. I have 6th graders different times.
And this is one of the ones that I do with my students, and these are called learning initiatives, and so I call them
so that means I get
touch words. And so what we do is we look at the first sound in short word, so pause, and then we say have, and then we add to.
Throughout the year, I have been last year.
So let's do the next one together.
And then something else that was really cool was I really actually find a dietitian and saw who was able to come in and the students were able to get to learn about history and they actually got to make energy bites. So he brought in some food. I also kind of made it a part of my nutrition. So it was kind of like a special.
Good job. All right, awesome. And so then we would just like go through it, and
so in addition to
there's more and more, and then the kids have these in there. So then like the first 5 minutes I share is like a word, I call it, like the high school yearbooks, and they just know it, and then we're starting at these also go home.
So as I said, it's definitely going to be a part of life skills programs as well.
Each day
We did talk about this 100%.
and as you can
That was
see,
super cool.
then we get to
That
the
was
part
our
where
journey
she
set
so
up.
we're looking
I
at
do still want to try to get all students in theory to complete it.
and then we actually
It
go
was difficult to get a few of the students with IEPs on board though,
kids
so I'm hoping next year to work more closely with those case managers as well as the school counselor. Because they work more with the students. So I'd love for them to still fulfill career readiness standards.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really neat the way they just, and they carry this right over into the curriculum, which is incredible, so. And the other important part that we're gonna do tonight is just
They
the
did a project with
reader that we
research a career that they found
So
interesting.
this will be our first lesson.
After they had a year to kind of play with their data.
Land for the first week. Yeah, look at her. And so then
this is what we'll do. I normally have the kids go ahead and read it by themselves, and then what you guys we read it as a class and see your needs, because if you look, for this first lesson, we'll be concentrating on the short vowels. So, you know, we'll do you, the the here's
naturally. So this is the 6th grade lesson where they're discovering their purpose. I wish I could have shown you more screenshots. This is one of the questions. So this one is saying, how do you feel about learning new
and again,
hands-on skills?
they love that.
And the students are able to put the emoji indicating how well they feel about that. Which I think is very age appropriate.
Yep, and then
there's
that's just
quite a few
another,
questions
yep,
about it,
that's
so
just,
it's pretty
they
good.
come right
I
out
think
of these
help the
books
kids
here,
to find that
and then there's different activities, there's,
and
so
then
we
in addition
do,
to just the career aspects
we
of
do,
the
I do 2 minutes each day. It's wonderful, Wiley has it all
Up
broken
here,
down in
this is where
books,
students are
right through,
applying
it's just
different
wonderful,
skills
and
that
it's just
they might take
habit
on
for the
in their other
kids.
school subjects.
Yeah.
And they're just applying it to different situations.
But they're awesome.
So I think that will
Love
give them an
them.
opportunity to practice other skills as well. In 6th grade, they have a
Yeah.
so students can see how figure out how
Which is the same kind of
in 8th grade, they have a transitional high school and actually I collaborated with the school counselor for that, and we went into school for our advisory periods to teach that lesson. Because we thought it'd be more applicable for all 8th graders to get it at the end of the year, as opposed to when I had some only during a semester. 20 minutes. So students seem to really do well with that. We did a advisory circle, kind of similar to actually what we did in like the Bergen looks like. About our students are able to just talk about how they felt about going to high school, any questions they might have had. So it was cool being able to teach what was digital and making it more accessible lesson that we're working on. So I really love Zella for just kind of the flexibility it has for just different topics and scope that it
And then we talk about really like what words they might know, point to them, check them out. And they give that information to them. And then we discuss and teach, what did we read?
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, yeah, they just completed posters.
I don't know if you have time. Teach a new sight word at the end, which our new sight word is come.
Yeah,
And then at
thank
the
you.
end,
Right, because when they present other high school work about it too, right?
speaking words or sound box. Okay, I chose that we were gonna do S and M beginning speaking.
So he had a really good message.
This lesson plan goes for 2 days.
So life skills in the last, I think, really years has become optional. I think I learned to do it or just numbers. I don't really know what the specifics of that. And then I think moving forward, they're making it required. I know for sure
Where they're
in
located.
6th grade, 8th grade gets complicated because kids just get really involved and they'll take
You're reading with 20 kids, like, what skill do I need to work on?
Yes.
A little bit, but not planned.
So they added a section at 7th grade next year, so I'll make sure I get all the 7th graders, but it's the 8th graders that I'll probably have to do again, like a workshop is what I call it this year. I reached out to students, I said, we're doing a Zella workshop since you don't have life skills, so they get on board with doing it during homeroom, is how we work that out. They guys realize that.
So the rest of the kids,
You haven't, they did, first semester. Okay, yeah.
one is doing the reading, one is doing the
It's funky, yeah. So I know she was Spanish, why?
I started at day 1. And I thought she was crazy.
I didn't have it.
First day.
But that's a good point, though. I think that's the biggest flaw in this, is that I don't necessarily get all students, because there's also the addition of IEP students who opt to use resources a little older in the latest. Thank you. Yeah, so again, just finding ways to hold it in mind when students. And maybe even putting us on the case with future students. I know that my son used to love reading. My son
And I think it was kind of
Thank you guys.
Giving us the training.
And make it like a great career week where you can get all those students, and then you could line up, more people to come in, so that
yes.
make it just like a big, so 1 week,
And then this is a picture of
get
all of
involved,
these.
and then they go.
My son was one of the kids that got to go read.
Might be higher elementary school to find coverage, and those kind of things.
Well, I think the connection is basically
first meeting.
Yeah, right?
Social media now, so. That's right, that's right.
Yeah, right?
All right, got about 15 seconds, wrap it up and we're gonna rotate.
Thank you.
You know, the other thing, and you know, I think the kids they just have to always keep, and then they kind of stop.
All right, everybody, let's rotate, count or clockwise. Well, that way.
Morning meeting like
So they reuse certain.
if there is a question, I think
Put it out another.
Related assessments.
There's a lot of planning.
Thank you.
How are you? Anybody else in your group?
You guys in primary school.
Primary school.
High concept strategies that nestled right within.
So yeah, here's like, our vital measure for the scorecard is that assessment said 100% of middle school teachers. So we're focusing on LM1 and focusing on these are the high completed 96%, but as a comparison, last year was something similar. The first one is 56% of the middle awareness completed. This was for second grade. Because there's a teacher in our middle school, is the Wiley Levins program, just adopted, really kind of taken on, and then the Jan Richardson data reading. Teachers know more about
So we started out as we were gonna do a career.
past August.
Like chamber timers.
Is going to
We do a job
I
fair.
will look at this stuff and
have to engage a little bit and pull your inner child as you're working towards this, but we thought it would help us understand kind of what your
careers that they may like, as well as take other lessons that this is middle school. So in addition to the career readiness aspect of it, which is a pretty big part of it, they also get the chance to look at their skills and classes. So it's all on Orator Simulator. So for example, your sixth grade, they have so for example, in eighth grade, they have a transition high school lesson, which allows them to think about or what kinds of skills they might want to think about. Does that kind of give you an idea of what afternoon? Sure.
But some of them.
Yeah.
And that hurt about it.
Maybe I think
They owned it back in.
so it part of the work and a little bit about how they figure out their career. So yes, it's a career program. And every student has access to this program. Each grade has different goals. So sixth graders take a set of lessons, seventh graders take
So
a
other
different set
teachers
of
that do
lessons.
tasks like reading the
Usually I'm taking about sound, serious with them, 10 or 4 lessons.
So we decided that we wanted
Also
to
have
include
one
all
lesson
of our
per
students.
class period.
Right?
With seventh grade, I've actually dedicated
Around
it's just a very basic project, they have this lecture one day next to that.
not just because I have more time in it.
Then,
So I'm gonna talk about the phonics and reading
Yep, and they get the chance to
program, and we also got to meet
That's what I like about South
love him and just love it.
But yeah,
And so this is an example of what we do every day at Diana's grandson. So
program that allows you
here tonight, you'd be able to roll these off, like
that will actually
How much money you're gonna make.
what we do are these called blended we're interested in. And so each week they have a different sheet of curriculum. They actually go home with them and they're reading these for practice at home then as well. But then what we would do is on Monday, we'd start off with
they do give them emojis, so they're not like typing anything in, they're just
H
figuring out
say,
like it.
pop, and then A says ass with pack, and then we did pass.
The question you might get in the next week was, you can also get a question like, what's to be on your feet, do you like to pop?
It, and then we say hit.
There's a bunch of questions. Interesting.
Like as you can tell, these are refreshing. This is my first lesson of the year. Actually, it's a refreshing state of work
We also wanted them to.
Very short.
We go through and as you look, we get a little more involved as we go through the week and these
Career-related assessments.
with sentences down here. And the kids just love these. Also, we call just their warm-up each day. We talk about a baseball game and how you have to warm up and everything, do your stretches. And this is their stretches every day. And they do this.
High school's
And then another activity that we do
Come in.
is
sometimes the college profiles. I haven't quite.
And this is our decodable reader.
Yeah, most
Different for each
schools
grade,
that
but this is what it looks like in the second grade. Then
I did have
our story then that goes on, the other grades have it broken down for
broad
procedures.
procedures, they just didn't quite
And
finish
so
it.
what we do here then is I have my kids first, they read it, they highlight, circle any words that they're stuck on, students, and then we go through it as a class. And then there's different activities where we're talking about
Because I do want these students to
vowel
know the
sounds in the
standards,
words and things like that. And
so
they
how
got
students
to
use the software for career-related
Oh,
assessments.
yes.
So that was during our, once I get to know people that know more closely, I could make sure that they're all understanding as well.
So this is just a lesson plan that I would do every day for my readings.
And here, so it was implemented in my curriculum. So in my life skills class, it has activities in it throughout. I teach life skills.
So I would have 3 to 5 kids in reading room that they would rotate about 20 minutes. Lunch time, the lesson plan is set up. We would review the sight words, and then we would introduce this new book, this new exciting book. We would introduce like what they think the book might be about, a lot of animals,
Individual research, so they included this project. 8th graders got 4 days. In addition to the traditional high school lesson,
word as
I
they were
made that a
reading it.
2-day lesson. We had a discussion piece on one day, and then the second day was wedding, development, so I do like, again, it's a new
Sight word, and I did the
it
word.
can either just be the program, or you can really easily celebrate it, which is something I decided to do, just because I wanted to
And
make
then
sure.
the next day we would kind of thing except at the end.
So all writing stuff, right, the students really seem to enjoy this personalization aspect. Most students did really well completing this. A few kids, of course, needed some guidance, so we had some questions. And then a highlight I would say is when I was able to get a professional to come into the school. His name is Isaac Hodges. So the students were able to learn about what he does. They also got to make nutritionally balanced energy bites because it's also part of the nutrition unit life skills. So that's kind of like a double whammy of a lesson. They really enjoy that. And then getting to know like someone in the community that is working in a job that they might see.
So when they they'll show.
Just a short, quick, just like diving into what that sounds like. The last one, this is like 10 descriptions, last lesson, and some of the activities you can ask these students to do, they might break those apart.
Yeah, good question. So what's really cool is with this matchmaker, right, it'll show like where their interests might lie, and it'll like propagate a few careers at the beginning. But after that, it gives them the opportunity to just kind of browse the whole site. And there's areas where you can select, oh, I like this area, I like agriculture.
Yep.
And that ones that it'll just propagate a bunch of
Here is like our high confidence
and so on, right? They can pick different topics, I guess, that they like, income levels, educational levels, so they can like click any of that and see what careers will pop up. And there's just a lot of they've not heard about, which is what's really cool. They're like, oh wow, I've never heard of that before. Like, so the program allows them to see that when they get into a broader area that they know they're interested in.
My interaction type of question, at least in that is more just words
I'm happy.
Hey, had some
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I would say there's descriptions, there's images. I don't really think
I had
there's
5 kids in my class.
it's more so text and images.
Continuity across the grades, like by the time they get to the exam, they know they don't care because day 1 you can start with things.
I do think it gives the students a
They've got it
I
down.
don't even stand around
That definitely is part of our phonics,
Yeah.
and then,
Okay. So
for another.
this project really it gave students the opportunity to look into a career that they found really interesting. What was kind of cool about this is some kids afterwards were like, wow, I really don't like this career.
Whereas the things that they're
I
learning
feel
here,
like
like
it's better
they're
than
part of the wild.
right? And so they did the project. I'm like, well, you know what? Now you know, so now you don't have to think about that. Right? Maybe you're business in the future, right? But yeah, it gave students the opportunity to look at something they thought they might have liked, and some skills came out of it saying, wow, I like that. Like,
The
I'll
practice
keep
of
using this,
this
right?
or this guided reading, this
So again, I took that extra
versus
time
something that they have on the side.
if I wanted to give them the time to practice a complete dive into something they might have been
From the
thinking
blended
about.
lines, or they'll practice the decodable reader. Those are the things that they're working
Oh,
on.
one other cool thing I should mention.
Versus something that they can't like sustain and keep
So
a skill
throughout the year,
long term.
students,
You know what I
because
mean?
I think so they're able
It was a work. Yeah, so that would be a different piece than what some curriculums in the past they might have got that just like learning to shows like these things are.
Yeah, it
I
was.
wouldn't say it's like a concise form. Honestly, I wish it was simple, but it's pretty user friendly still. If they click on the career section, it'll show their start. And again, if you choose those areas, it'll have those careers.
Every classroom.
They can have
Also
recommendations.
recommend that's a way to find the section where it shows that.
Whereas now they're in grade six, so it's that they have to, and so when you look at them,
As far as activities and profiling.
they have an master piece.
Start at 8:05.
It's just exposure once time, so.
Are other schools using these?
So these, because they're the, these are the.
Yeah, so it carries on. So even if the kid doesn't agree with their information from the previous year, it'll still be there.
Phonics, they
So
are
that's
starting
why I
to
made a
look at
point to
with
tell
their
the kids,
kids.
feel free to go in and change all this information to it.
That was
Still
Get stuff that's more related.
Jan Bridges, they just hit
And
their
then it's
training
cool
this
for them
spring,
too to
so
see
they
that.
also have
They know
these two things.
wow, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That's why I wanted to do that.
This one.
We're gonna rotate. We're gonna rotate, thank you.
Yes, I would say any areas around the area are using Jan Bridges. Yes, segregation. Yeah, yeah.
We're rocking it.
Yes, you guys. Yeah, awesome.
So this is,
Good, glad you like it.
Howard, she's a first year.
The vital measure for this?
So we're focusing in on pillar one of the high confidence strategies, integrity, which is our fundamental six program. And as a comparison, like a guidance 6%. So they're gonna do two like their students, so you're gonna have to pretend that you're in the class, but it might help you to understand what your kids and their parents so.
Really neat right now, this late in the year. Jobs divided into we had 12 different staff
Hello,
members.
I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you. I think I've seen you. So, how do you
Daily scheduling,
Like visuals.
Yes, no, we haven't.
Thank you. So what we
Zello is to fill in a Wisconsin State standard, which is that students can use computer software to take related assessments, score online games or classroom,
and then I said we're gonna break it up.
So with that, we just came up
I would argue that the middle schools also takes on the career-related assessment and
a lot of talk about
profile aspect of it. Some of my students don't know the college profile, so they kind of browse that and say, hard, and yes, our goal was to have a
She knows what's going on. Then I say goal, and
and we have students who unfortunately started but just never finished it, so, oh well, next year we'll work on that. And then 11 never started it, and most of these students are students identified with age, learning circumstances, so.
but yeah, then we move on to
the
syllabus.
students were tasked with
Hopefully have them fulfill the standard for one of these days, however they just see it fit.
what they had to do was they had to meet 3
So here's how I can.
And then I have into the phonics to reading Wisdom with Wiley program that we started this year, so now they're gonna see it in sixth grade. And the very first thing that we do is we record
not to just walk
that
around
they read away, and each day they have word list.
and then
And as her son came home with these, and that was his first thing, and then they practiced them at home. And I think the kids loved them. Did you see
I
it?
wanted students to not just like look for.
Jason, look.
I know, he loved phonics.
So
We should have had him come. Yeah, exactly. So we do blending lines every week, and I'm gonna start down here at the second line just because I'm.
some of the
So, with the blending, then what we do
In addition to that, 7th grade,
we're continually blending them as we go. So we look at this here,
I was able to have to actually do a deep
and then we have the and then we add the
So,
dance.
minutes.
And then here we say and then we'd say 6, and then we'd say 6, and then here we'd say and sad, and then we're just gonna go down, and then they get like a little harder each time, and then by the end of the week, we're reading full sentences and everything.
I think the thing students most
So it's awesome because they have the chance just to keep repeating these. This is our warm-up every day. We kind of talk about like playing the sports. You know, the baseball hitters have to go and take batting practice, things like that. They have to do our stretch, they get out their book every day, they're still seeing, they get your blending lines, and they're at it.
Interact with the kid right away and then show you.
It's awesome. And then another piece that we do every week is called the connected
Seems kind of long, it does take a little bit at the beginning to get that going.
So this is in their workbook each week as well, and it's using the skills that we've learned. And I should say this is the lesson that I'll be teaching for the first week of school already next year. I'm so prepared. I'm so excited. Second grade. Well, that's a good question. The kindergarten and the first grade readers are more, they have several pages to them, whereas in second grade we get kind of like this because we're going to see more into the lessons and things like that. So we kind of get into the beefier readers. And so we go through this, I have the kids read it by themselves, and then we read it together as a class. They follow every word if they're stuck on something. And then they just read it, and then there's different activities that we do.
Prior to you guys coming over, and that was how are the pictures actually presented to kids. And that's just they're able to click on the picture. There's a pictures of it, and there's also a description of it. So I think it was just a pretty concise way of helping students.
So the janitor,
That's why I really that I was able to
my guided reading group that they use guided reading lessons a lot more.
in addition to Zola itself, I was able to collaborate with a dietitian from soccer, and he was actually able to come in to my classroom and share some aspects of his career. Kids loved this. In addition to his career that he shared with them, they're actually able to read something called bites. So they're able to
laid out here,
I think the different foods,
a little bit about the first thing that we would do
balanced energy bite. There's also part of the nutrition in it.
then we would
Kind of double whammy that one. This was a few weeks ago. It was really great, and it's your activity. They're so hyper about it. So it's super fun. Yeah, this is what went well this year. Looking ahead, as I said, then we will continue to have some part of the life skills weekend. I would say a flaw about this though is that not all kids do life
then we
skills.
would teach a new sight word.
So moving forward, 6th and 7th graders are going to be required to take it. But in 8th grade, there's
The
nothing
next
to
day we would also do that word
they take choir, Spanish, they take all the electives they can, and then they just can't take life skills. So moving forward, this is something that I need to have on track. So last year I was able to do a solo workshop, which was completed.
And then the next day we would
I was able to call down the students.
by the end of the year, those two
That might be a similar thing for us next year, but I am hoping to give you still some writing.
That's where we get to not talking it off, to having a peer off them.
Yeah, so that's one of the big also still got it words.
So I think that is really.
classes typically are about 20 minutes, and then my next group.
I would argue they're all essential. I think it's just, it's the elective stuff.
That's what makes this great, is that it flows so quickly and they know what.
I do want to say that my 8th grader, her kids really touch on and
You're fine.
those are visual arts. Having one I'm like thinking about it, which is nice. Otherwise, it's all. I really do. I really am. Thank you for the way you talk. About. Sure.
I mean,
it's just different. I think. My group did that. Yeah.
It's cool
to hear from that perspective. I hadn't thought about it from, yeah. And I think for sure it's
It's not coming to you, right?
I mean, I'd like that.
Yeah, do you have questions?
Just someone who has ongoing support on top of them to go talk to.
It's almost like a job.
Yeah, but you know, it's not just.
How would you teach that to your class?
Yeah.
Well, that would definitely be one of those, odd words that we would talk about, and everything. Oh, yeah. Oh, you teach it to us then. Oh, yeah.
volleyball, they should I love that idea. Like, I know.
Yeah.
Other things, shag.
Yeah. Yes, it's a good point though. I mean, even just, you know, like the kids come to us with different, you know, something like that, so we have to think of that, so.
What is next?
These are classroom things, so they're coming in.
One of the things that teachers that is being able to, for example, this, because it's all outdoors, you're listening to the
Good question. Yes, I would argue they build on each other. They are different sets of lessons. There's a few that are all related.
To see how they're all
They get like a time lesson, which is more like skillsy type Zella lessons. 8th grade gets a transitional high school lesson, which was actually something they collaborated with the school counselor with. We were able to go to each 8th grade class and have a simple discussion about how to go to high school, what they can do moving forward to prepare. So again, I really love the supplements.
oh my gosh, science, 3 kids learn how to read and
As opposed to like looking at a different.
so that he was afraid of. So that's one of the things. He's a fungal reader, so it's very tried in that way. But they try to think of how interest and it makes sense. That's difficult. Purchasing or trying to find ones that are engaging to the kids that allow them to read it without all these words they can't do. Yeah, that helps.
All right, we're gonna rotate. Rotate to our last station.
But I make sure it's
We're gonna rotate to our last station.
oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. Oh, I see. I'm so glad I could meet you guys. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
One of our high concept strategies that's right within pillar 1 of our strategic is exploring the academic and focusing on very diverse future for our opportunities. All right, hello. All right. So I'm gonna first grade. Sarah got very, very close with 96%, but as a comparison, only 56% of students completed. So we're here to talk next year. Again, some nice growth there this year. Sarah Integrity, which is at the middle school, who teaches our life skills performance program. She's gonna tell us more about Zello. We're gonna go through a couple things. You are gonna be our students, so we're hoping you'll participate just like our students. But without that,
I'm the life skills teacher, and life skills is all grades in the middle school, so that's 6, 7, and 8. It covers kind of a mix of health as well as more life skills and topics like career readiness. So that's where Zello comes in. The Wisconsin state standard that is having us do Zello is that students can use a digital software to take career-related assessments to explore online career classroom profiles, and information about financial aid and employment. So the middle school, I would argue, is fulfilling career-related assessments and the exploration of careers. They have been able to also explore college profiles to some extent, but I would argue the middle school focuses on this career exploration. What's really cool about Zello is that it's very personalized. So students are actually able to take a matchmaker quiz that allows them to have the rate where their strengths and interests might lie. And if you're like 39 questions in this quiz, students rate themselves based on an emoji. So this question asks us how do you feel about
Those are the hand signals. Those are their only visuals they get.
But I love that. Is it beaming emoji or I really don't like that when you frown emoji, right? I mean, there's a range there. So based on what they select for their 39 questions, Zello then pops out some careers that they might be interested in, as well as shows them some interests that they may have as well. But in addition to this initial kind of career showing to them, they're able to actually select an area that they might want to
looking to introducing the wives of
For
lessons.
example, if student wants to learn more about reading and careers, they can select
Witness their
or it'll actually propagate a bunch of other careers related to that. Right? Because they might only know, oh, I want to be a farmer, but they might not know yeah, their niches with their farming or like
Are
flexibility at home, but also just different types of things in agriculture, for example, like your child.
And so what we do with our blending lines is we tweak them, and so this is a lesson
So in addition to this match maker short thing,
so we would talk about, you know,
in life skills,
and what they say, and then what we do is we do it kind of
getting a good grasp on these lessons.
but we do it like we're just like putting the two cents best of it. So first we do H says ha, and then we add the
actually
ha,
have them deep
ha,
dive
and
into
then we end
careers
the
that
ta.
they were interested
Ha.
in. So the students did a journalist,
Ha.
they made a poster for
Ha.
it. And some students really found out, wow, this is my thing, I love this. Other kids were like, I really don't like it. So being able to deep dive really
And as
gave
you can
them that
tell, we
information.
get more involved as we go on, and there's
Someone asked me what the careers actually show when they look at the
and then by the
careers.
time we get done,
It'll give them an image and a brief description, so it's pretty concise. That's why I
and
want
the
to
kids ask about these, this is our warm up each day.
In addition to
I'll
this,
tell them,
I've had students
get your blending lines out.
reflective activities and just, we also will do like
That's
discussions.
one thing I really love
Just to
about
get them thinking about it.
are all like the same, you know, so competitive, so they
Each
love
lesson
it.
took place during a class period. There were 4 lessons per grade. I did 4 class periods for each grade.
And then the other thing that we do is we do an affordable reader. This is an example of a second grade lesson. This is actually the first lesson that I'll teach them
We love this
at the beginning of the school year.
aspect.
And so what the
Their data
decoder
actually follows them through each grade level. So when the 6th graders take their quiz in 6th grade, they can see the same results in 7th grade. So to think about that, some kids might be like, wow, I didn't change. Others might be like, I don't agree with that at all. So then I can go ahead and let them actually redo this quiz, redo their data, so they can look at different.
I just thought of this when my last group was talking about.
So taking
As they're reading it to themselves, you can hear them like giggling,
something that I'm
you know, or something like they're reacting to it, so these are really great.
in addition
They
to
really
this,
enjoy
we
these,
have
it's
the
not like,
professional soccer come in, share aspects of
they really like them, and then there's several activities
This
that
is really fun
we
because he was actually a part of my nutrition unit as well. So he came in, he shared aspects of his career, and then students were actually able to apply their nutritional knowledge, and they made energy bites, which had different serving sizes of foods that needed certain fiber, protein, or whatever it may be. This was really fun. I'm hoping to have more community members and professionals come in next year. The high school has the drama therapies. I'm hoping to have more like a restoration type of thing, whether that be within life skills or maybe outside of life skills. Just kind of an idea of where I'm heading right now. And then looking ahead to 2022, it will still be in life skills. Something that's a little tricky is that I don't actually get all of the students in what I'm middle school because we have some very involved 8th graders who take multiple electives. So because of that, I might not actually get them in life skills. So the way I handled that this school year was I had them come in during homeroom and we completed Zello activities in that manner. So I'm hoping that might be the solution next year, or they might come up with something better. But that is how I make sure the students from meeting the standard. But I do hope ideally that most students can get into my life skills setting because that's where they're getting my developmental activities as well. In addition to that, these 11 kids who didn't start Zello, a lot of them were identified as students with IEPs. So I'm hoping to work more closely with case managers as well as the school counselor. So I know well that's standard when they know those kids best. And then as I was saying before, establishing some more opportunities for community.
Everybody was the morning meeting, 5th grade is the only one that does it. Parents give feedback to some of the stuff that their kids are doing.
I just think it'd be really interesting when you think about something.
It's like 15 to 20 minutes, they're gonna do.
I've never heard of any of
Oh, yeah, it's fifth grade.
Like, I'm very curious to see like what the results.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like students, parents can probably access the Zello information for their students a lot of times working. But yeah, I think that's definitely something moving forward that I could do more of as well.
Yes.
In a way, I think it was limited to just monthly newsletters that I sent out, oh, we're doing Zello, but parents probably don't know what that is.
If we're really having a problem, let's say, being respectful, quiet, and
Stuff like this. I feel that way too. Like, I wish I was able to look at, oh, like this super niche career. You know,
Different program.
I think there's probably a point of like, this is what we're, you know, kind of like the consistency of across the grade level, this is high school time management and interest. She had like learning style. It's fine. She feels like I can't wait to next year. You don't know a little more than your choice, right?
That was really cool. So all of that was in particular talks about like stereotypes in certain fields of work. So like all teachers are women, you know, all nurses are women, like that kind of stereotype. The students like flip through and they pick, oh, what's the misconception? A few different examples of it.
So how integrity and the phonics is cool to talk about and Jeremy just so I'm ready. I already used to serve them. Yes. Well, I thought it was going to be a story. It's like, I was just like, holy shit.
So you're gonna learn about like planets, whatever that is, right? And I got there, it was like at the first period or the first class, because
Nobody knew that. I was just like embarrassed kids because that one was more of
and then Sarah talked a bit about the her 8th grade sharing and the transition at baseball team. So my class, career matches and then self-advocacy. Absolutely. To advocate for themselves and how things think, which is fine. But absolutely, and I feel like the kids like are super confident in themselves in 6th grade, kind of you can do it. So then I'm ready kind of wall, and then they're just like, okay, I don't know, you know, like so that lesson's really good.
sounds to make over to different letters when it sounds there.
So
once they never there, our students.
Right.
It's not to be very, but it's just.
Does your kid go to school?
Yeah.
Who's your kid? Adeline sharing. Okay. Oh, Adeline. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry. I didn't even. What's with your Weber? Because I wouldn't know from the first place unless do you go away to school by your first grade? No. Okay. Yeah. No sweater. Because I'm thinking like I might try to. We did just have a changing of people. It'll be my second last year. So free time is rainy, but then they can practice this. Here's a fun thing. Adeline was actually in the period that I did it. That was you'll see it on our scorecard. Because I'll always remember that. I wish that you guys would use 4 years.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up.
I would have to die.
We're gonna wrap it up.
COVID year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's super. At least from what I can see, she's very extroverted in my class.
Next year,
yeah, it's fun. I enjoy her.
My son's still does it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you assess? Yeah.
Because if you're doing this,
I'm so glad you came. Did a great job.
So, first of all, I would just like to give a round of applause to our staff. They give up an evening to come do this.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions for the staff before they're gonna, and I'm gonna let them scoot out?
But I do, and I told you all individually, we see this stuff here on our computers, and we hear it from the administration, and it's, you can get it, you can understand it, but it's way different than hearing from you directly. It's so much better.
It was really nice to have you. It was so nice.
No offense taken.
I mean, we heard from them.
We just hear them talk.
It's real, right? And it's experienced, and it's just, we
You guys are
have to
all-
keep doing it this
Well, we
way.
can hear the enthusiasm too.
I was gonna say, everybody's excited.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
It was really.
it was amazing.
All right, thank you.
So again, again, I hope I found this time helpful and informative. I know, again, when the first time we met with the Vision Element Study Team, there were a few members of the team who were initially hesitant to participate because they felt the district would develop a strategic plan and put it on the shelf, right? So I shared with that group at the time and with the community that came together, community conversations, that we'd be working on implementing our strategic plan and the priorities set forth in the community. We've done this through the balanced scorecard and at the district level and the building balance scorecard. Obviously, we did not touch on everything that we were doing, right? If you go through the scorecard, you'll see a ton of different things, and there's things that are going on at the primary school, that are going on at the elementary school, and a lot of things cross over. And we will move forward with wrapping up this year's and start developing the building scorecard for next year. And it all comes back from this document, right? Our district strategic plan, which was given the priorities set forth for our district. Okay. So again, thanks for participating. Thanks for being willing to give up an hour of time to bounce around the room.
That was nice. That was really amazing. Okay, and moving on, COVID mitigation discussion.
Yeah, so the medical team met on June 7th to discuss our COVID mitigation strategies. Columbian County and Dane County both continue to fall in the medium community transmission level. The committee recommends that we stick with many of our COVID mitigation efforts during summer school. However, they did suggest some significant changes which the board will need to take action on for those go into effect, because we changed that our last meeting. One of the things we talked about was face covering. So the district, their recommendation is they move from face covering recommended inside all school buildings to face covering recommended when Dane or Columbia County are in a high community transmission area. And then but they also want to make the point that that face covering, that we still allow kids or staff to wear face covering if they want. The point was made by one of the doctors, like 5 years ago, if somebody wore a face covering to school, it wouldn't have been allowed, right? So we still need to make sure that that's an opportunity for kids. And they said if their feelings, if Dane or Columbia County gets to the high community transmission level, that we should reconvene the committee, because like even with our last surge that we had, we didn't get to that level, and they were like, there may be other issues we need to be obviously addressing, and we would be pulling them together. And then we should create some real clear signage on the building that kind of indicates what those different levels mean, like that we are at a certain level. And I think the idea, I think it was covered in the paper pretty well, like one of the doctors talked about, when having a sign for fire. Like when I drive by, I see that fire and it's a red sign, like, oh, I notice it when it changes.
Yeah, it's true.
So that was, because that was one of the things we talked about with face coverings. The district should allow PCR and NEAT tests, which is what we have done, but now we should allow, their recommendation is to allow antigen tests, which include home antigen tests for those who are experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. If a family receives a negative result of the antigen test and symptoms continue, they would encourage that person to go get another antigen test, because they're not quite as accurate, and sometimes they recommend the serial antigen test, so you take it a couple days in a row. And the point they would make is like, where our parents are on the honor system anyhow, right? If they're reporting symptoms, they need to do it anyhow. And we would tell you now, even if in the past, if your kid had the flu, and if their symptoms are getting better, you shouldn't send them back to school. You may want to get them tested to make sure if they have something. They recommended, though, that we did check with NOAA Labs, and NOAA can do this, that we have antigen testing at our testing site here at the high school for families who don't have access to antigen testing, right? You can get some free through the government, but you may not have access or may not have ordered them, or you have to go purchase them. So we're going to work with NOAA Labs to be able to do that.
So they'll have some there and people can just pick them up?
Well, we will be able to test them there, and then we'll have them
okay.
sit and wait.
Okay.
So we'll have to put together a protocol on how that exactly will look, so we can get that out to people, depending if the board adopts this or not.
So they can maybe even get antigen and PCR on the same day?
Yeah.
They know right away with an indicator and then long term?
Yep. Go ahead.
So the testing site, what is like?
So our,
is
good
what's
question.
happening with that right now?
Our testing site will be open through summer school. That is funded through the state, through the federal government, through July 31st is as long as it can go, and then we'll see if they continue that or not.
So people just show up, or do they?
Yeah, so we have it open from 8 to 11 every day. So people just show up and get their tests. They just pull up, and you have to register one time. The first time you go, you register. And after that, you just have to come with a note card or something with your name, date of birth, and your school. So like, my daughter's in middle school, so I would put her name, date of birth, and middle school, and then she pops up in the system, and then they have it produces a label so they can label the test and it gets to the right spot. Okay. It's really slick. It's
Yeah, I've used it, I just didn't know if it was enough people still continuing to use it to have.
Yeah, we'll continue to monitor it. Right now, again, it's not, we're not paying for it. It's through, so we wanted to, again, we started talking about, do we need it in like March, right? It's like, well, we're not seeing a whole lot, and then all of a sudden, late April and May happen. So we're hopeful that the numbers will continue to decline here, but it's just, it's a great resource for our families to have. The district also recommends close contact of COVID-19 cases, symptom monitor, wear mask for 10 days, and this is no different, except we had a little slight difference between a vaccinated and unvaccinated. We'll just do it, it's the same for everybody as a recommendation. We're asking people if they're a close contact to get a test on day 5. It's recommended. We don't require it, but we recommend that they get that COVID test. And then obviously if symptoms happen, they should stay home and get a COVID test. And then the district is going to stop again, if the recommendations approved, would stop contracting on an contact tracing at the individual case level, but continue to provide information to people about COVID cases that happen within a classroom. And really, it just comes down for us, it's staffing, right? It's the amount of time we spend on that. But we still want to provide that information to families, right? In case, somebody has a child in a classroom who there's an at-risk individual at home, then they can make a decision, right? Because they know that there's been COVID in the classroom. Or they make a decision like, I might not go see grandma this weekend because I know there was a COVID case that happened in my classroom. So people can make that decision however they want to make it, but without that information, it's hard for them to make a decision. So it would just be a blanket email that would go out to that class that, just so you know, there's a COVID case. So that was the changes that they recommended. The other pieces, they continue to stay the same, that we would continue to track, we continue to provide testing, and require people who have COVID symptoms to test, and that anybody who has COVID would be excluded, isolated for 5 days, and come back on day 6, but need to wear a mask through daytime.
Are we doing food for summer school? Are they doing a lunch?
Food?
No. So they don't have to worry about any of that. Does the second semester, the second session, have the afternoon session in it?
So we do have a little bit of food. We have the afternoon session in the first 3 weeks, so today was the first time. We reached out to some community organizations that are providing a sack lunch for kids, that even for the kids that go home that want it, so they take it on the bus, they eat it at home. The afternoon session is a small group, around 60 kids, that stay for that 4th period for only these 3 weeks. So we actually are working through what the logistics of that will look like from COVID protocols, and we're waiting to hear what you guys talked about for a flavor of it. So keep talking, we're listening.
Because as of right now, they are following
current
status, right? We would have made some tweaks to this, but with the board's last motion, now we need to go through this piece. So, again, I open up for any questions, or again, I would recommend, it was a very big discussion amongst the medical advisory committee.
So we have the testing site through July 31st. So in our August meeting, I'm assuming we're going to discuss what the next...
We will have to talk about next school year, when we will meet again in late July or early August. From the medical advisory committee team will meet again. We're not going to meet again till just before our next board meeting, and then we will come back with some new recommendations of what we should look at. It's just too far. For example, we talked about, like, one of the things on the agenda for me in the May meeting was, what about summer school? Right. And we were like, that's too far away, right? What could happen? Things change in 6 weeks, and it's good because that first couple weeks of May was pretty rough. So we'll have that conversation and new guidance that'll come out as we get closer to August, and then August we'll have the board again will have an opportunity. This probably will not be on unless something comes up, this will not be on the agenda for the first time in forever in July.
2 years.
because unless we think we need to make a change, but then we will look at what the school's gonna be like. That doesn't make sense for us to make a recommendation for something that's
Too far away,
far away.
with a lot of changes that could happen between now and then.
Yeah.
The federal funding ends July 1st, so if we want it after that. we
July
have to-
31st or
July
July
31st.
1st?
July
Sorry, I meant
31st.
Right, but we're not talking about it with middle committee until after that meeting, so then we have to.
Yeah, so, well, we won't have kids in school either,
Right.
right? So that's the part that, and there's other places we can, I mean, we, even on our website, we talk about, like, there's times we're shut down,
Yeah.
like, for portions of the week of July
Right.
4th, and there's other places people can go get testing, which is really convenient right now for us to have that community testing site. If that doesn't continue, but then, again, by starting to allow home tests and things of that nature, that helps free some of that up a little bit as well. Because in the past, we haven't allowed a home test, we've made a PCR because they're more accurate.
Right.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the COVID-19 mitigation changes recommended by the Medical Advisory Committee as presented.
And I'll second that.
We can talk about
Motion
it.
by Angie and a second by Terry. I think we just already talked about it. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0.
So it'll take us a couple days to put these into effect, right? So like even, like what's antigen testing looking at the high school? How does it go? Stop, you pull over, it just takes us a couple days to put that stuff together. So we will do that. Thank you.
2022-2023 draft budget.
Yeah, so the board typically approves the draft budget at their June meeting. I will turn this over to our business manager extraordinaire, Brent Richter, to share information with you about next year's budget.
Thank you for the correct credentials. Let me just talk about what you're looking at, how we got to that point, and then the
Before you
process.
do that,
Yep.
can you pick him up from there voice-wise, or does he gotta come up here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
up front.
okay, thanks. Okay, sorry, I just wanna make sure that
I
we're being heard.
specifically didn't talk about my personal life in any committee.
And we appreciate that, so
So the statutes talk about getting the board approving a proposed budget, which is a preliminary set of numbers, and the DPI recommended format is what you're looking at. We follow that budget through the course of the summer into the fall, and then the DPI, the statute requires that the board adopt a final budget basically right after the annual meeting. So we'll be revising what you're looking at from now until that point in time. The numbers that are in this document, this is extremely high level, right? So we have an intense set of spreadsheets that has every staff member with a lot of movement, as everybody here knows is happening. Benefits, every piece of their employment is on these sheets. And all of our supervisors, our department heads, those folks in supervisory positions having a chance to allocate their discretionary budget, that all filters into our financial software. And from that, I can take a report at this level, drop it down, and present it to you as a proposed budget. We, at this point in time, are still looking at about a $350,000 surplus for next year. However, I opted not to bring you the budget book, which is 150-plus pages, tonight because of the substantial number of items on this particular agenda. Within the week, my intent is to forward you a document that has every penny allocated into the expenses in our financial software. That will show you a very, very detailed picture of what our software looks like. But tonight, what you're just asked is to basically approve a proposed budget so we can get rolling on payroll and paying our bills. And then we'll bring it, I guess, the same format, but amended in November in this format. But in the next week, look for a detailed budget to hit your mailbox. Any questions?
The 350 that we're projected to be in surplus, we need that because of the 5-year referendum. We're supposed to be a little high and then a little low.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
That's perfectly normal.
And just some side points is that the usage of ESSER funding and those kinds of things is all reflected here. So should we change our usage, whether that be a fiscal year or different allocation of it, that would be reflected as a revision that would come to the board to the board level over the course of probably the year. Anything that happens after you adopt a final budget comes through as a revision. And typically what's happening is you're acting on motions at the board level. What I do the next day is I go in and revise the budget. So, any questions on that?
Well, and just a point of why the annual meeting and that budget gets adopted and we do it in October. Like a lot of boards are used to do that in August, but then you're guessing at your exact state aid sometimes, you're guessing at your enrollment numbers, all are big drivers of your budget. So by pushing and having that annual meeting in October, you're dealing with much firmer numbers versus standing up there and say, this is our more projected enrollment, this is our projected state aids, where you'll have that information at the annual meeting and able to do that.
You know, sometimes in the past, like the state aid has been such a huge question mark, like it's been like it could be like here, are we still in a situation where it is like, you know?
We know it's zero.
Yes, so it's,
I mean-
and what drives that a lot is the state budget, right? So we are in the second year of a budget
okay,
right now, so.
This year's not quite as much.
Well, it's because there's nothing. So we got a
Oh, right, yeah.
$0 increase on per pupil this past year and this coming year, but we know that. So next year when we're sitting here, we'll be having that question, like, is it gonna, because none of us guessed it was gonna be zero. Is it gonna be, and what's that gonna be? So that makes it much more difficult that every other year for Brent in the district to try to figure out where are we going to be state budget wise. So, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with the, I mean, it'll be a big, education will be a big focus of the coming election this fall.
Better be.
I move to approve the proposed 2022-2023 budget as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Barb, second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's a 7-0. The district liability property insurance discussion. So basically the next one, 5, 6 items was the facility finance meeting.
Long meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. So we were fortunate
Here's
that
the
John Gibson from Tricor Insurance joined the Facility and Finance Committee on June 1st to share information of our district liability and property insurance. So it's all there for you to see. I can hand over to Brent again for any questions the board members may have on this.
Yeah, and I would invite any facility finance members.
It was really nice to have him here as a representative so we could bounce all kinds of questions off of what are other people doing, why are they doing this, and should we do this and should we not do that, and he had all those answers for us. It was great to have him here. So
Wealth of knowledge.
a wealth of knowledge, yeah. And then we use that as board members to tell administration, well, you need to go back and talk to the rest of the people in the schools to figure out where we should be on this or that and how it goes, so.
Yeah, so for example, just to Adam's point, one of the questions that came out of that committee was what should we do with cyber insurance? Should we up it? I mean, because we've done a lot of work, Tyler and his team has done a lot of work on helping prevent that. But we went up and talked to Tyler, and Tyler's like, and meeting and talking to other people, $250,000 is not enough. We need to bump it up.
Peanuts, yeah.
Even with all the things we have in place, so that's why we made that move.
Okay, I'll do my best at this.
Okay.
Proposed, I approve the District 2022-2023 Tri-Core Liability Insurance Renewal with adding the following options. Increase the building blanket limit from $98,245,778 to $121,645,738, with changing the deductible from $10,000 to $25,000. Increase the cyber insurance policy from $250,000 to $500,000. Increase our loss of salary and fringe benefits from $50,000 to $100,000 for staff and $75,000 to $150,000 for administration.
I'll second that.
Motion by Barb and a second by Heather, right? Was Heather?
Yes.
Any further discussion? So I can say the 98 million was 80% coverage, and so we discussed going to 100% coverage. That's the 121 million. that's the biggest change in there. Okay.
Yeah, they had mentioned that some schools were doing the, like 98 or doing like a 80%, right, in the hopes that, because our values of our buildings have increased so much because of inflation and things like that. So some districts are not quite, going to the full rate. The concern, if you do that though, is what happens if inflation continues the way it is this year for next year? Now you're putting yourself way behind that 8 ball. Now it's instead of that significant, now you kind of put yourself farther behind the 8 ball. So most districts are doing what we're doing, and just biting the bullet as we have to.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Energy Innovation Grant.
Yeah, so we want to make the board aware that Neil Reibel, our building,
Yay, Neil.
he's not here, yeah. Our building and grounds director, working with WPPI, Focus on Energy, Slipstream, and North American Mechanical, or NAMI, wrote and submitted a grant to upgrade the HVAC controllers in the middle school. Through this work, the district and our partners have been awarded a $342,000 grant for this project. The plan is for this project to be completed this summer, so we would just ask the board to approve acceptance of that grant. And we again thank Neil and the other partners for all their work in securing that funding for us. This was going to be a part of the referendum, which is awesome because everything else is kind of going up. So this was a plan in the next 5 years to be done. So we will continue to monitor that, whether we will be able to give that, not have to levy for that after the end of 5 years, or if again, the inflation rate continues and the roofs cost us that much more, but every little bit helps, so.
Do you remember what year the referendum that was gonna be done?
It was either in 3 or 4. Because we were doing the track next summer, and then the HVAC at the elementary school in year 2. So I believe HVAC at the middle school is year 3. Somewhere, yeah. Not in the first 2 years.
And then with this proposed change to those controls should be energy cost savings.
Yes.
And so we'll get 2 more years of energy cost savings if we don't wait 3 years.
So like not all $342,000 comes to the district, right? There's some that the partners get for monitoring like the energy cost and things of that nature as well, but it covers the full cost of us putting in controllers, which was, I can't remember what the full total cost was, I don't have it in front of me.
What was the anticipated cost in the referendum to do this?
Right at that level. Right
Yeah, I
at
think
It was
right
somewhere
about
in there,
yeah.
it was over
Real close.
300,000, I would say.
I thought it was 320, 329 or something like that.
Go back to it.
Yeah, this covers that as well as the cost of the company to do the research and to have wrote this grant. This was written by Slipstream, an independent company that is a research company. And their sole purpose is to put together incentive plans to get secure federal funding to watch efficiencies happen for our controls and other things for saving energy in the environment.
I'll make a motion to accept this grant, the Energy Innovations Grant.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Barbara, second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. NAMI HVAC agreement.
Yeah, the district is looking at renewing our North American Mechanical Agreement. We took it to the Facility and Finance Committee, which unanimously approved moving the contract to the board with a recommendation of approval. Through our work with NAMI, we have realized some significant energy savings and therefore cost savings over the year. We are asking NAMI to come back and make a report to the Facility and Finance Committee on their most up-to-date tracking of our energy cost. One of the increases in cost is continuing to move to, board members who remember one of the first years of the pandemic, we moved to MERV 13 filters. That is now written into this contract. Part of the increase of cost is going to those MERV 13 filters. And Brent, if you have any questions, Brent can help answer them as well.
Those filters, they need to be replaced pretty often, or is that?
Yeah, that was
that's
part of it.
Yeah, I don't know the interval on it. I just remember that the budget line was around 13,000 to 15,000 to implement those.
24,000, I think, a year for filters when we went from going from MERV 8s to MERV
So do they come in
or
and?
13. They come in and
make
change the
repairs?
filters. Yep, they come and monitor all our systems.
They monitor all our systems from afar, and I would imagine they would be able to see the pressure drop when those filters start to plug up, and so they would say, "Yep, it's time to change filters."
Yep, they go through and make sure that they're maintaining all those systems and doing everything they need to. Or, so example, when we had board meetings at the BAC, thank you, I would at times, I'd have board members next to me saying, it's cold up here, and I would be able to go on my phone and go, can we up the temperature in here? And there's somebody from NAMI would go, yep, I'm gonna put it up a couple of degrees. But it's running at right now, let me know.
We've already realized substantial savings through NAMI, so.
So again, I will have them come back. I haven't done a presentation probably the facility and finance for probably a year or two.
Yep.
So we should have them come back and do a presentation.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval to accept this 3-year contract renewal from North American Mechanical Incorporated.
I'll second it.
Motion by Christine, a second by Heather. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Curita.
Rita water treatment is treating the water inside our boilers and cooling towers. So they help maintain our systems, improve the efficiency of our systems, and hopefully extend the life of those different systems. This recommendation was again taken to the Facility and Finance Committee, which moved it to the full board. It was something we figured out this spring that we haven't been doing this, and NAMI helped us point this out and helped us point to this company. We asked for bids from a couple different companies and only received bids back from one. This was the only one. So the Facility and Finance Committee reviewed it and recommended to bring it to the board and voted unanimously to move it to approve it.
I'll make a motion to accept the service agreement with Curita for service of the closed water systems.
I'll second.
Motion by Barb, second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Johnson Controls and fire alarms, inspections, and monitoring.
So as we said, the Facility and Finance Committee is busy.
Yep.
So the Building and Grounds Department is asking the district to move away from CEC, which currently monitors our fire alarm system, and move towards Johnson Controls. We have a simplex fire alarm system, so anytime we have an issue with that part of the system, CEC will find the problem, but then we have to reach out to Johnson Control or somebody else from Simplex to actually fix it, because CEC can't fix that system. We've also had some issues with the service we've been receiving from CEC, and we just feel Johnson Control is a better fit for our district for fire alarm and monitoring. So again, this was taken to the Facility and Finance, who recommended approval.
I'll make a motion to approve a 5-year agreement with Johnson Controls for service, annual inspections, and monitoring the school's fire alarms.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry and a second by Angie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Motion sensor and camera service contract.
So this did not go to the Facility and Finance Committee because we didn't have the information yet. But for the past several years, again, we partner with CEC for security systems, fire, camera. It's been increasingly difficult to schedule services with CEC, along with increased fees because they are not really located locally. So we struggle with service. As a result, the IT department has looked to find alternative vendor. IT recommends developing a partnership with Complex to support our security system, door card readers and ID card readers. They invited both Complex and Johnson Control for a site visit to offer quotes and annual services. During our meetings, they felt that Complex knew our systems better, were able to offer more suggestions how to improve our system. As I said, information wasn't available to take to Facility and Finance, but since we're making the move away from CEC, fire control and monitoring, we thought this would be a good time to do it as well. And I will actually ask, if you have any questions, you can ask Tyler, since he is sitting here as well. Breath of break.
I'll make a motion to approve the complex contract for security camera services.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Christie and a second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Program cleaning service agreement.
Yeah, I will turn this over to Brent to talk about our agreement with Program.
Yep, our current agreement is expiring this year. It is with Program Cleaning. They took over in 2018 when I believe EC Wisconsin was in place, and I think there was an interest in turning it over over our services to a different company. So program cleaning, one, they've been very happy with program cleaning. I mean, it's a very difficult job and maintaining staff, but I'm under the impression that they are doing a fairly good job and they're able to keep staff. Now, their initial contract did not increase each year. So for 3 years, there was no increase. And program cleaning came to us and asked for a 15% increase. And over some discussion, we were able to get them to go to 5% consecutive increases. So we are asking that you approve program cleaning. One side note is that I was on the team that brought in the initial night custodial contracted services. And at that point in time, there was about $150,000 saving, and we were in a window of time in Lodi where we were declining in enrollment and losing revenues. So it was an option that was viable for us. So again, I ran the same analysis, and for us to bring on the same staffing and bring them into our salary matrix or our pay wage scale and give them benefits, we're still $50,000 to $100,000 savings by having a contracted cleaning service, and those are just the numbers on a page. That's not even including purchasing equipment and supervising people at night.
Make a motion to approve the 2022 through 2024 program cleaning contract as presented.
Second.
Motion by Barbara, second by Christie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's a 7-0. We have substitute pay.
Yeah, we had a discussion that this would be coming to the board the last few months as we've been working on compensation adjustments at the district. And we need to address substitute pay, summer worker pay for the district. The administration took information, including comparables to other districts, the Facility and Finance Committee, and you can see what they recommended to the full board in Brent's memo. Ask for approval.
Well, I'm gonna give this one a whirl.
It's a long one.
I move to increase the rates of the following staff. Teacher daily subs from 130 to 140 per day, effective July 1st, 2022. Substitute educational assistants, summer custodial, summer worker, and substitute administrative assistants from $12.50 per hour to $15 per hour, effective starting with summer 2022 employment. Summer starting IT workers from $13 per hour to $14 per hour, effective starting with summer 2022 employment. Summer returning IT workers from $14 per hour to $15 per hour, effective starting with summer 2022 employment. And lastly, summer maintenance workers from $12.50 per hour to $16.50 per hour, effective starting with summer 2022 employment.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry, second by Angie, excuse me. Any further discussion on this? All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Board professional development.
Yeah, as I mentioned at our last board meeting, I attended a session this spring, WASDA convention, highly effective boards. At this session, several school districts represented by their district administrator and their board president share how they've gone through a process of board development and how it impacted their board and the district in a positive way. So after last board meeting and a lot of head nodding around the table, I reached out and met with Drew Holwick of Holwick Associates to discuss the possibility of him meeting with our board. He's developed a process that goes to the board members and district administrator. It goes with the board members and district administrator. It seems like it would be a good fit for us, what we're looking for. I followed that initial meeting with a second meeting with Adam to walk through the process, what it would look like for our board. After that meeting and talking through the process, Adam, I think, also felt this would be a good opportunity for the board. I'd asked Mr. Holwick to put together a contract for his services. That information was presented to the contract review committee, and they voted unanimously to send the contract for board professional development to the full board with recommendation of approval. And we have a couple dates on the calendar. He also knows that those are contingent on the board approving that. We have a busy board, so trying to find dates that worked for every single, because we need everybody there for those. So the first one is in July, the end of July, another one in August. That one is tentative because he's expecting his first grandchild. So at the end of August, so he's thinking that'll work, but if a grandchild shows up, we may have to push it, and then the last one will happen in September.
Did we look around? I know you guys put work into it, but it's just a little pricey.
It is. We could look also at WASDA, WSB would do something like this, but they're probably pretty similarly priced.
I have no idea, so that's what I was just
Yeah,
asking.
no, it's a good question. One of the nice things about him is he's close, right? So we're paying mileage, but he's in Waukee,
Okay,
Westport.
okay.
So it's one of the things that I look at.
That's the standard mileage rating.
It is, but I mean, if I was pulling him in from Green Bay,
Right.
or Eau Claire, then that's a little different than driving from Waukee. So it's a standard rate. I mean, it's not just for us meeting, it's for him meeting with me beforehand, and at a couple meetings we've had, and then meeting beforehand, putting them together, and then wrap it all up.
This price is cheap.
You're worth it.
Thanks, guys.
No, and I think the piece of it is.
Or it's more like we need to pay this to get you.
Well, no, I think the piece of it is, as I said, as I sat through that meeting, it was like, I'm new, still, I consider myself relatively new. I looked on the table, there's, as I said, 5 of you were in your first term. But it's also just, it's not whether it's just to make your board more efficient, like, to continue
Kind
to
of
grow.
overlaps that little session we had over in the corner there,
Morning meeting?
where we become community. and
Yeah,
we get
right,
to know each other.
something, and that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
You put meeting norms and talk about like some specific things that you, like, the things coming down the road, what are you gonna use as your guiding principles to help make those decisions, right? Just really help guide those kind of discussions and make us more efficient at what we do and continue to keep our focus where it's supposed to be and make sure we all stay in our lanes, including me. So I just think it's probably well worth the amount of time and energy you guys put into this. I do too, but the amount of time and energy put here at a board level, to make sure we're doing it as best we can. Because that's, I know why you all ran, because you all have the district's best interests at heart.
I move to approve the contract with Howick Associate for board professional development as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Barb and second by Terry. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. Staff handbook.
So the school district Lodi staff handbook's been updated for the 22-23 school year. The changes are noted in the corresponding memo. There's not any major changes. This was taken to the contract review committee, who reviewed those changes and recommended to the full board for approval.
I make a motion to approve the 2022-23 staff handbook as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Angie and a second by Heather. Is there any further discussion? In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Passes 7-0. First policy reading, therapy dogs. Sorry, policy 383.2 and procedure 383.2.
So Val Bilkey and Adria Schrader came to the policy committee early in the spring to see if there would be a willingness of the committee to consider the policy on therapy dogs in the school. The committee said yes, there would be. So Ms. Bilkey and Ms. Schrader reviewed other school district policies and worked to create a Lodi policy and procedure for therapy dogs. The district's legal counsel and insurance carrier both have reviewed the policy for the district. The policy committee voted unanimously to send this policy to the full board with a recommendation of approval, and ask them to put together the procedure that you'll see as well. So this is the first read. There's no action required on the part of the board. Adria, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm just making sure that the checklist is in there, in those documents, just because that was something that came out of the last meeting. So that was
Checklist is
something that
beautiful.
Val,
Checklist is
myself,
beautiful.
Yes, it is.
It's nice.
Val, myself, and one of the local vets worked on that, so.
Okay, great.
So that was one of the concerns of the policy committees, like who's going to make sure all this stuff gets done? So they made a procedure, so that'd be a checklist that would be very easy for the district.
So would this be for just like staff to bring in therapy dogs, or is this like if a student wants to bring a therapy dog?
So therapy dogs would be different than like a service animal, for an example, so this policy kind of differentiates the two.
Okay.
So this would be for, it could be a staff member that had a licensed therapy dog that met the requirements within this. Other options could be, there are some like outside organizations, so like, for example, therapy dogs and kids read to therapy dogs as an example, and that could be an outside organization. So it would encompass, really anyone that would meet these criterias and that would have the administrator's approval.
Because I people have those, but then some people just claim that they have
So
therapy
it's
dogs.
not
No,
a
this is-
service
this is
animal.
very different.
It's not a-
Service animal. People talk, because a therapy dog, you have to register, there's training they have to go through and be
Okay.
certified to.
Very different.
Good questions.
It is.
Well, you hear about the crazy people trying to bring parrots onto the planes and stuff, so just to claim that it's needed, but, okay.
So I still have a question about family notification. So if we think about this as, I just want to bring a therapy dog in one day, then this family notification is perfectly fine. But if this becomes a regular program, right, and therapy dogs are coming in all the time, you're not going to want to ask once a week, hey, can I bring a therapy dog into family notification? So we talked about, could this just go in the handbook, right?
We talked about it as a possibility of something that would be approved as part of registration.
Right.
If we start seeing this as, it starts happening a lot, then you could make it as one of the checkoffs, and kind of like pictures. Like, you know, can you use, in the media, can we use your picture in the media? Parents have to check off
Right.
before.
But you don't want to do that now.
Well,
Well, we've already started
does
on
it
my
say,
registration.
does it say weekly?
It
Like-
started in May.
I mean, yeah, to make sure that you're identifying students who, again,
Right, right, right.
fear dogs.
I think we start with where we are now and then.
You can always
build
change it later.
Yeah, build it as we go.
Policies can be modified.
So what's the plan if you notify a family and the family says, I don't want my child near the therapy dog? It's kind of listed here, but I'm just curious to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I think that, I mean, that would definitely be honored. And the child wouldn't have contact with the therapy dog if that's what the parent requested.
So the child leaves the room, the class?
I mean, I could see it depends on how the therapy dog's being used. I think that a therapy dog could be used in a whole class setting. I think that they can also be used in small group or individual settings as well, so it does really depend on how that is going to be. I think that would be a
How do you envision
conversation.
the therapy dog being used?
What's that?
How do you envision the therapy dog being used?
I think that it can be used in a lot of different ways. One thing that Mrs. Bilkey would like to do at the primary school, which is kind of where this started and where the policy first came to the policy committee, in wanting to have a therapy dog to be able to use in some of her small group intervention work that she does with students.
In Val's area, in her area.
Correct.
Right.
Yep, in her area.
They're coming to her
And
in
if,
small groups.
and if a parent doesn't want a student to be around a therapy dog, the dog would be crated for that time. So like the student would still be able to access Val and the small group and all of the other things that are taking place, but the dog would be crated during those times.
It's unlikely that there would be an incident, but I think we have to at least consider if there was, for example, therapy dogs will be permanently removed from the program if the following occurs a bite. You know, what's the liability of the school district if something like that occurs? And does that outweigh the benefit of having a therapy dog available for students? That needs to be considered.
Yeah, so that was a question that was raised, and so it was taken through our insurance company and our attorney, and they both approved of this policy. They both looked at it and said, yep, absolutely. It meets all the requirements that we were asking you to do, so our insurance company signed off on it. So that was a step Adria and Val took. So, yeah, same question, policy committee, same question.
So generally, to become a therapy dog, they're not biters. I mean, any dog can bite.
Right, I preface that by saying in the very unlikely event,
Right,
but
right, right.
nothing is a, 100%.
That's why it's in there.
Sure.
Right, if it happens, then they're not.
And I'm sure that a lot more good would come of this than any potential harm. I'll support it, but I just wanted that out there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Okay, there's no second policy readings. Gifts and donations.
Yeah, so there is a donation to the elementary school of $6,000 in honor of Laura D'Agostino for being selected a Cole Fellow in the spring of 2022. So we'd recommend that we accept that donation with great gratitude.
I'll move to accept the $6,000 donation from the Cole Fellowship Foundation in honor of Mrs. Laura DiAgostina with gratitude.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry and a second by Christie. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 7-0. First up, we have Lodi Primary School.
So we finished a very successful year, I feel like, my second year. And we had lots of different events, including a kindergarten celebration. We had the Stride with Pride event. Grade 2, we did a parade with them on the last day, just to something to celebrate. This was the first class to go through the building, 4K through 2nd grade, so that was kind of a special class. Took a picture with them. And then some teachers had some end of the day or end of the year celebrations, so just really positive. You can see in the pictures there with the Stride with Pride, we actually did an all-school recess at the end of the day, kind of almost like a field day. Instead of the end of the year, we did it the same day there. And the kids, they love doing that. We have several teachers and individuals that we're saying goodbye to and wishing them all the best. And we've talked about them at different times too, but just wanted to publicly just again thank these staff for being part of our team and just making a huge difference at their school. So Mrs. O, Mrs. Rip, Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Mosley, Mrs. Nisha, and then our 2 long-term building subs, Mrs. Cable and Mrs. Mortar. They were just phenomenal, and Mr. Breiningen knows how much I have greatly appreciated the board supporting that, just because they've really been a huge difference, made a huge difference for us, so we could run our school. This summer we had the For the Love of Reading. This is a program that has been in the district for a while, but Mrs. Volk has been trying to really kind of fine-tune it and tailor it in a different way, and so that started, and so we have 147 students that are signed up, and so basically every 2 weeks they get high-interest books that are at their reading level, and the goal is to read and motivate them for 20 minutes a night. So our hope is that as we continue to do this and offer just a couple different incentives for kids along the way, just to really keep kids reading throughout the summer. And then this is just the literacy goal, just the different areas that we were supporting that again align to the strategic plan as well as the other areas that are on our scorecard. But specifically looking at 4K, looking at upper letters. Kindergarten is the sight words. And then 1st and 2nd grade is the Fountas and Pinnell reading assessment, where the teacher sits down next to that teacher and assesses decoding, fluency, comprehension. So a lot of great growth that the teachers, have seen with their students, and they're just making plans then for next year how to dive into some of these foundational skills that then really streamline right to with what we have on our scorecard. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Next we have the elementary OSC.
Yeah, mine is celebration culmination of the year, as you saw from the reports. So last day of school you're aware of, but you may not know that we wave to the buses every year as the last thing. So staff come outside, kids wave. I will be totally upfront with you and say some of my favorite pictures are like the kids hanging out the window waving like crazy. I didn't put that in there because I thought maybe that's not the best principling strategy, but it's a sign of the relationships that our staff build when kids are that excited to say goodbye and not oh, we're not going to see you for 3 months, but we're going to miss you. So it's a very cool experience to see. So there's some of those pictures, and then right below that is Miss Lang did the pledge for the last time. She doesn't always do it, but whenever I'm not there, she does, and she's done it off and on for 18 years. And so on the very last day, I said, would you like to do it one more time? And she willingly jumped in and did the pledge with some students. And then we had field day earlier at the end of May on the 27th, and so you can just see some of the activities that we did that the kids participated in. So we do it with both schools, and all 320 kids are out in various rotations going through the stations from 1 until just before 3 on that Friday the 27th. And then the next picture is the senior graduation walk. So that's a super cool event, and I do want to thank Mr. Jelnick for always coordinating. It's a very cool activity in an elementary school for many reasons, and one that strikes me is there's never usually people my size in the elementary school, and on that day for those 15 minutes I'm like, oh my god, I'm not even the biggest person in this school anymore, not even close. And then we also celebrated our OSC and 5th grade graduation. So OSC does their graduation at Haverman Park on the 31st. And so they recognize their 5th graders, families are invited. It's a great culminating event and celebration. And LES 5th graders recognize their students at the stadium. And as you read, we only had a 20-minute intermission, like literally watching the weather all day, talking to the 5th graders. We get to the stadium and we're like, all right, looks good. And Randy Wallace and Chris McNeil have weather apps that I've not ever seen before, but are very good. And like right before we start, Randy's like, remember how we said it was gonna be really clear? Yeah, it doesn't look like that anymore. I'm like, all right, we'll talk fast and we'll see how we do it. And so we get going, Randy comes up to me, he's like in 5 minutes, we're gonna need to do something different. And I'm like, all right, and we were only about halfway through, so we had like a downpour, so we put people into the causeway, you know, in the entrance and under the bleachers. And I'm like, Chris, you need to look at that app and figure out if there's lightning, because we can't have like 200 people under bleachers, metal bleachers, if it starts lightning. And so they're looking, and it like literally was 20 minutes, like ranged for 10, 15. We let it clear for the last 5. We were back on the field in 20 minutes, and then we finished, and like we finished with like 4 or 5 minutes left, and then another little sprinkle, not as bad, and so we made it. So that was our 5th grade graduation.
Memorable, right?
Yes, yeah, created even more memories. The hilarious part was every kid that spoke talked about, this was such an interesting and challenging last couple of years because of COVID, and then the graduation is like interrupted because of rain. I'm like, I just at some point stop, like let them just have one thing. So, and that's my report.
Thank you. Lodi Middle School.
Mr. Birchburg is not in attendance.
We have his report, right?
His report, yeah.
And Lodi High School.
All right, thank you. Just as always, the last few months, I've started with some student recognition. So we have 4 students that will be going on to college or university and playing in sports. So Chandler Curtis, Caitlin Skellinger, Wyatt Ripp, and Allison Larson. You can read a little bit about them and the schools that they will be going to and the sports that they will be participating in. The next part is Microsoft Word certification. So we had an opportunity for our students to take a class called Computer Apps class through Mr. Mankey. And they also had an opportunity to get certified in Microsoft Word. They took an exam. That was about a 60-minute exam. Microsoft Office. And Jacob Burmeister, Noah Davis, and Julian Monet had an opportunity to take that exam, and they passed. So they are certified in Microsoft Office. So congratulations to them. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we have a lot of athletic events in the spring, and we need athletic event workers for those events. We host the conference track meet about every 10 years, and when we host that track meet, it needs a lot of event workers. So I just wanted to highlight some of the event workers that were at that event, and it takes a lot of coordination by Sue Meffert and several other people. So these are just some of the individuals, both staff members and community members, that donated some time to come help us out during our conference track meet. Something that hasn't happened the last few years because of COVID was our athletic boosters banquet for our seniors. So it's happened at Rex's Innkeeper in Wanakee over the years, and this year they hosted it at Lodi High School. One unique part about this event, you can see the seniors that came, is we had an Olympic gold medalist attend and give a speech to our students and our parents. His name is Kenny Harrison, so you can go to YouTube and look up 1996 Summer Olympics triple jump, and you're just amazed. This guy is not very tall. He's about 5'10", 5'9", and he jumped 53 feet in the triple jump, which is unbelievable. So he brought his gold medal. He talked to our students. He was very gracious about letting the students and the Booster Club members handle the gold medal, even put it on and wear it. In fact, there was a student named Brock Beyer who was able to put it on, and he said something really hilarious up on the stage. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was the senior highlight, and that was winning the 1996 triple jump because he was wearing the gold medal. So Kenny was great. He talked about his experience in the Olympics and what it took to become an Olympic athlete, but also some of the successes he's had in life. So our students could really relate to them, and there's a picture of our Booster Club with Kenny. So we really appreciate them. I spoke at length and Jamie and Matt talk about our community partnership and our spring jobs fair, so I won't talk much about that, but again, 30 area businesses were able to come this year. Mike mentioned the graduation walk. There's lots of great photos of the graduation walk that Audrey Park took. And I also wanted to mention there's a woman named Susan Benson who drives around the ice cream truck in the area. She's an awesome lady. She reached out to me last year to see if our seniors would like ice cream treats for free. And I said, I'm not going to say no to that, absolutely. And she ended up showing up to our picnic over at Gorse Park and brought the truck. So the black and white picture are all the seniors that came to our picnic, and her truck is behind it, and she gave treats to everybody, which was awesome. And then, of course, the graduation, lots of mentioning of people that I wanted to thank, especially some of our student helpers, NHS helpers, and FFA helpers that helped set up and helped during the event. Similar to the elementary school graduation, we had our weather issues. I think everybody was aware of that, so I really appreciated the community being willing to, everybody got into the stadium, and then I went up to the podium, I said, I think we're gonna be okay. We're looking at the radar, I think it's gonna clear up. About 30 seconds later, I went up to the podium again and say, everybody needs to go into the gymnasium or the school. So everybody was very flexible about that. And I also wanted to recognize the staff members and students that turned every chair upside down so it wouldn't get wet during the storm. And then we handed out towels. Dave Poles and Michelle Poles found towels from the fire department, handed out towels so people could wipe off their seats when they went back. So I really appreciated all the cooperation. There are a couple photos I want to highlight, and you'll see them. We had 2 graduates that have school board members as parents. So there's a picture with that school board member plus them hugging afterwards. And Emma Steinberg said before the graduation, my dad's going to cry. Just wait. And I said, no, he'll be okay. And of course, because I know, because I know we have a very caring school board president, and he really cares about his students, and especially his own students. I kind of knew that was going to happen, and there's a photograph. It was kind of a bittersweet graduation for me too, because my last child graduated, so I got an opportunity to congratulate her out on the field, so that was awesome. And then finally on the bottom page, there's Shauna Wyman, Jennifer Seidler, and Tiffany Hodek. They put up all of the signs for the seniors, which was awesome, and there were some area organizations that donated money for us to get those signs, so we really appreciate that. And then finally, on the last page, I just wanted to mention there's a picture there of our girls and boys track team. They both won the regional title. They got second at sectionals, each team, and then you'll probably hear in Jason's report, they were runner-up at state for boys, which is amazing. The track program has really taken off. In the last 4 years, they've won 2 runner-up titles, the boys, and a state title, so it's been very impressive. That is it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Curriculum.
Can't believe I have to follow that.
Yeah. That's why it gets mixed up there.
Yeah.
The first part of this is just a note, and I'll try to do this every summer, of just updating that we have a number of educator teams that will come together throughout the summer and do planning around various curriculum areas to do updates, to do mapping, to make more engaging lessons for students as they approach the school year. So let's just highlight some of those, and all of them go through a process for approval and administration overview. I am looking every time I'm doing a board update to link back to our community connection partnership goal that links with the strategic plan and highlights some additional connections that we've had. So that's highlighting a recent connection with the vet, and then also with the Lodi Enterprise as well. Last year, you may remember that this board approved for taking Spanish 5 and allowing some students to not only take Spanish 5, but take it as a CAP course, which is a dual credit opportunity through UW Oshkosh, where our teacher here acts as an adjunct professor. And so we had students successfully go through that class this year, and we had, I believe, 6 of them who were able to not only earn the 5 credits for taking Spanish 5, but then also have the 11 retro credits that come with that for the grade that they earned within the course. So they would be looking at, it depends on the university that you go to, but it would be accepted at all UW institutions of higher education in the state, 16 college credits.
Nice. Awesome. For foreign language.
next one was highlighting again, this was the first year that we were able to offer the Microsoft Office certification. So Mr. Mankey did a great job with that, and we had a few students who were able to take and pass the Microsoft Office certification, which is identified also as by the Department of Workforce Development and by the Department of Public Instruction as a qualifier for the Wisconsin Incentive Grant, which I'll highlight next. So each year we submit documentation from our graduating class, and of our graduating class, students who participate in youth apprenticeship or earn an industry recognized certification, they if their paperwork is approved, the state and the Department of Workforce Development gives a grant to the district that comes back to funds to the district to reinvest in programming. So we had so the 2021 graduating class, I believe it was 9 students qualified, meaning they had either participated in a youth apprenticeship, or I believe we had a student who completed the CNA experience. And so the district then receives some funding. So when I look back historically, what I see is that traditionally we have received funding through the incentive grant through those two opportunities, right? The youth apprenticeship, or students who have done connected in their senior year with the Institute of Higher Education and got the CNA. Where we haven't had a lot of opportunity is students earning other industry recognized certifications, like a Microsoft Office certification. And what you'll notice is that districts, as they're doing their course sequence in areas like technical or career and technical education, they'll often, as a capstone within those course sequence, start to put classes that allow students the opportunity to earn an industry recognized certification. Great opportunity for the student because they bring a certification on the resume, out into industry. Also a great opportunity for districts because there's money that can come back to the district to reinvest then in those programs. So we've talked about that, those of you who have been on the curriculum committee of the board before, but that's just an area that I think it would behoove us to continue to look at in the future.
So those graduating seniors, do they have to like fill out the paperwork? It's all
done here locally.
Okay. That's great.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. So, Lodi Pride Community Awards were presented at the May LCAT meeting. Awards were given to the following people and area businesses: Abigail Volk, Carla Faust, Madison Berry, Sarah Gleese, Joel Phobes, Marcus Malig, Barvin Wayne Breinig, Reach Out Lodi, Lodi Optimist Club, and Lodi Rotary Club. LCAT sent out letters to parents in the district with students' graduation this year. The letters reminded parents about the civil and criminal consequences of serving alcohol to people under the age of 21. The letters also provided tips on how to host a safe graduation party, and that letter is in here to read if anybody wants to read it. Anybody that maybe had a party read it, I don't know. So, Community Night Out will be taking place this year on August 2nd, 2022. Community Night Out, well, it's actual National Night Out, same thing, is a time for the community to get together and to honor and celebrate our public safety providers. A planning meeting will be taking place on June 8th, which we did, at 11 a.m. at the LMC at the high school. Please feel free to attend. We did that already, and it's down in Haberman Park again this year, so everybody was agreed that that was a great place to have it. The Lodi Pride campaign will be unveiled in fall of 2022. LCAT is excited to work with many community groups to make this happen. A planning meeting will be held in conjunction with the Community Night Out planning meeting. Please feel free to attend, which we already did, and we will do more.
Thank you. Student services.
Yeah, youth mental health first aid is the first thing that's on the board report. I completed training to be a youth mental health first aid instructor for our school district and for our community. The purpose of that is to offer help to a young person who's experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis, and participants learn how to identify the signs and symptoms of a potential mental health crisis. It's also important to note that mental health first aiders do not diagnose or treat others. They provide information and serve as a link to early intervention from trained personnel. I look forward to providing trainings for our staff and our community in the future in this area. Next is the Crisis Prevention Institute. Our in-house trainers, Jen Fafinski and Gordy Byer, provided a full-day training for 15 of our staff members just a couple days after school got out. The training focused on prevention and verbal de-escalation skills, as well as disengagement skills to avoid the use of any sort of physical safety interventions like restraints. We will have other training opportunities for staff throughout the summer so that everyone is recertified to begin the next school year. And I also want to thank Jen Fafinski for her years of service in this role as an in-house trainer. She is going to step away from this role, but thank you for all of the time that she has spent doing that for our staff members. And finally, the Responsive Classroom Day 3 and 4 training was held last week. 8 staff members from the primary and elementary school took part in the training. Responsive Classroom really fits within Pillar 2. One of the strategies from Responsive Classroom is morning meeting, which you heard about earlier today. Student-centered approach for teaching, designed to have a create and safe and joyful classroom. These educators fulfilled their day 3 and 4, and if you remember, all staff 4K through 5 were trained during the school year. So during the school year, they completed day 1 and day 2 of the training, and then we had these 8 staff members continue the training and complete the day 3 and the day 4 training as well.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So Adria, where do you see yourself doing this in the community? I think that's great, but I didn't think about that. Where?
Well, I would love to work with LCAT in the future to do something like that. Just other community events that, I mean, it's definitely a need right now, so I think that it would be good to get out into the community.
Yeah, I could see parents really liking to
Yep.
get more of this.
Do you almost think we could incorporate it into like life skills class too and give the kids a little bit of awareness more of that?
So we would need to go through a couple more steps to get to the point where we could train students.
Okay.
So there are a couple different steps that we need to get through or move towards in order to get to a point to possibly train students in the future.
Okay, thank you. District Administrator report.
Yeah, so first of all, I'd just like to say thanks for the year, right? We made it through another school year, so first of all, thanks to our students who were awesome, and our families for trusting us with their students, and all the staff and all the hard work they've done throughout the year, the community for their support, the board for their support, and I want to thank all our administrators for all their hard work and leadership throughout the year. It takes a whole team to make it through a school year and make the progress that we did. And as you saw today, as you were going around the different areas, this was just a smattering of some of the things we've done. If you look at the district and school report cards, it's just the amount of work that has been done this year with everything else going on and the progress that has been made. It's just been outstanding. So I take my hats off to everybody for their work. We had end of this year staff breakfast. June 6th, we honored our years of service employees, so anybody's 5, 10, 15 on up. And then we also honored our retirees. So our retirees are Karen Ripp, Carrie Findora, Beth Lang, Mary Millman, Sheila Van Langsfeld, who's going to retire at the end of the first semester next year, Kim Rendler, and Sandy Osterman. So we just appreciate all their service to the district over the years and the impact they've had in the lives of kids.
You said Kim Rendler too, right?
I did, yep.
Okay.
The communications audit plan, we are continuing to work through that. We did the audit piece, and then we had some 2 meetings to work on putting together a communications plan. We've completed our meetings. We hope to have a completed audit plan to share at the July board meeting, which will help inform our district scorecard in that area. And we will move forward, and there will be more information to come on that in the near future. One of the things I want to spend a little time on is it was part of the consent agenda, was our Fast Forward grant to the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. Again, aligns with our Pillar 1 of the strategic plan. We applied for that $19,000 grant, $19,220 grant. We had to provide a 2/3 match, and when we put together our ESSER budget, that was one of the things we looked at in our ESSER budget, was making sure that we had the opportunity maybe to turn money into more money. So we were able to turn $38,000 into almost $60,000. And with Tyler's leadership, Jamie's leadership, and Nick's leadership in putting this together, we were able to get funding for 4 constant current arc welders, 2 MIG welders, and 6 arc welders, which are industry standard equipment, laser engraver, an Epilogue Fusion Edge 12 with accessories, and a 3D MakerBot Method X Carbon and accessories. And so one of the questions I had for Mr. Licht was, well, tell me about our current welders that we have. Why do we need new welders? It was a question that Mr. Bilsey asked when we were talking about this in facility and finance. And he said we currently have 4 arc welders and 3 MIG welders. He said the welders are making a humming sound and take a few minutes before they really are ready to weld. It's a matter of time before they will not turn on or correctly function. He believes the arc welders came over from the old high school when Mr. Anderson was a tech ed teacher. 2 of our MIG welders are between 15 and 20 years old. They work but lack efficiency due to age and require a large amount of argon. Replacing and refilling those argon tanks is very expensive. Our newer welders will be similar to the ones utilized in the tech colleges and manufacturing fabrication companies. They'll also be safer and more efficient as they have new ground cables, electrode holders, MIG gun cables, and technological updates. For any of our students who choose to enroll in welding fabrication tech program, college manufacturing class, home hobby welder, or possible career as a welder for business, they will all know about properly setting up these type of welders and hands-on experience with laying welding beads. So just really updating some really old equipment that we had and making sure that our kids, when they leave here, are able to step into those fields and be prepared. So that was just, again, thanks, hats off to the team that put that together and that opportunity that'll be there for our kids. And finally, we received our latest school report card from our social media company, and one of the things I challenged our staff at the end of this year was to try to, and challenge our social media company was increasing our reach. So I will give that information, share that information in my weekly email that I send out. But we increased our monthly average reach of our Facebook page, went from 9,000 to 23,000 over the last 3 months. And there's some certain things we've been doing. I mean, I've been working with our staff to get more pictures and things up, but also there's a couple other techniques they've been using on our webpage, like asking more questions and try to get more interactions and things like that. So yeah, so again, we need to tell our story. And that's one of the ways we can do it. And so, that's it. It was a lot, but that's it.
Well, that was one of the requests of a lot of the people in the community, be more transparent, so it seems like that's a good way.
Yeah, we tried, you know, it's just getting things up on Facebook and trying to get more pictures up there and.
It's one way to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things we're going to look at our communications plan is, right, people get information in all different sorts of ways. There's certain people who get it from Facebook, there's certain people who don't even look at Facebook, it's on Instagram, there's certain people who get it through the newspaper, there's certain people who just look on our website, and there's not just one good way where there used to be, so trying to figure out the best way to engage people. Yep.
Thank you. For my report, so I'd like to take a minute to anyone watching this to ask them to volunteer and engage with the community over the summer. Our community needs you and all the help that you can put in with your volunteering through the Lodi Ag Fair, Columbia County Fair, Susie the Duck Day, National Night Out, as Terry mentioned. We have a market on Spring Street every week and the barbecue that's coming this fall. And I mean, it's the community that makes the community, and so helping out with these events is a great way to be part of the community and make the community what you want it to be. Individual reports, CISA 5.
I have not done much. I was worried about the time commitment, and especially starting it in the summer, I'm a little, but I have been on their website, and it is amazing, all the info, and.
Have they been having meetings though?
Yes, and I have not been able to go. Both times I had conflicts, so, but I'm hoping with things settling down, and obviously once the school year starts, I'm hoping I can get more into, but summer is busy with
I think they
activities.
skipped, I think they skipped July. I think they also skipped July.
Yes,
Yeah.
July, I looked, because
Yeah.
I was figuring it was probably during my vacation, but no, there is no July meeting, but I'm hoping to get to the next one, but I have been looking at the website and starting to learn my way around things.
They'll get, Jerry O'Meal will wanna give you a tour of the building and kinda show you all the stuff that
So yes, I was a little nervous when I said I would do it, just for that reason, but I'm hoping to get into this.
They should have their meetings scheduled in advance so that you could put them on your calendar in the future.
Yes, but I'm just getting into everything, so I'm trying to find stuff, but yes.
Okay, co-curricular report.
Co-curricular report, June 2022, baseball. Lodi baseball team finished the season with an overall record of 10-15 and a conference record of 3-7. They earned a 6th seed in the playoffs and suffered a 5-1 loss to number 3 River Valley on Thursday, May 26th to close out the season. Softball. The Lodi softball team finished the season with an overall record of 6-13 and a conference record of 2-8. They earned a number 7 seed in the playoffs and suffered a 6-1 loss to Dodgeville on Tuesday, May 24th to close out the season. Girls soccer. The Lodi girls soccer team finished the season with an overall record of 10-5-3 and a conference record of 4-1-2. They earned a number 3 seed in the playoffs. Lodi won their first round playoff game 5-1 at home versus Wisconsin Heights Barneveld. Their round 2 matchup against Aquinas ended in a 2-2 tie at the end of regulation. Lodi was awarded the regional title in a sudden death shootout in double overtime. However, a WIAA officiating error caused the end of the game to be contested. I heard about this in Florida. The team had to travel to Richland Center 3 days later to finish the game with one final penalty kick. Senior Grayson Schmidt scored the winning goal to clinch the regional title. The season came to a close in the first round of sectionals with a 5-1 loss to top-ranked Assumption. Track and field. The track and field team finished the season with a strong performance at the state track and field meet on June 5th and 6th in lacrosse. The men's team took 2nd place overall, finishing 1 point behind first place Shorewood. The women's team placed 11th overall. The following student athletes won medals at the state meet. Lily Strong, 100-meter dash, 6th, 200-meter dash, 5th. Caitlin Skellinger, triple jump, 6th. Ella Pulls, shot put, 2nd. Parker Heinz, 800-meter run, 6th. Lucas Hayroth, 110-meter hurdles, 1st. 300-meter hurdles, 1st. Long jump, 3rd. Triple jump, 2nd. Paul Lenz, Connor Picard, Sean Crowder, Parker Heinz, 4x800 relay, 3rd. Golf. The varsity golf team finished the season winning 4 of 6 conference mini-meets, placing 2nd in the conference meet and finishing 2nd overall in the Capital Conference. The team placed 2nd in the New Glarus Regional on Tuesday, May 24th. The season came to a close with a 3rd place finish at sectionals, missing a trip to the state meet by 5 strokes. That's the report.
Thank you. OSC.
So I got detained at work and was unable to attend the last OSC meeting, so Adam can probably fill you in a little bit more. But one of the main fundraisers for OSC through the years has been the lemonade stands that we've been able to do, that Bud always loaned to us, and when he sold his campgrounds, we lost access to that. So Adam took his science club this year and had them create a new recipe for OSC to make our own lemonade, which would be more cost effective for us rather than going through the whatever company it was that we always go through.
Right.
And so he and his students came and presented to the meeting that night, which they're very excited, very super excited about.
Like a secret recipe?
They researched what was lemonade and why did people like it. Then they tried up their own recipes. They tried commercial lemonades to see what was good about those or bad about those. Created their own. Then they figured out which one was best. And then they taste tested 2 of them with all the high school students. And then brought that data back to give you guys the best lemonade recipe they could find.
Which is awesome, so we're gonna be able to have a stand again this year at the
So like,
Which brings us to major
what's in it?
Still a secret.
Lemons
Was it there?
and sugar.
An aid?
Lemon and eggs.
Lemon and aid.
All right, well, can't wait to try it.
So I think that was probably the main big thing, and then it was just kind of a wrap up of the plant sale, the musical, and those kinds of things.
Are you gonna have like a poster at the lemonade stand that tells what the science club,
No.
all that stuff?
No.
Wouldn't that be cool?
No, it was just one of our projects.
Well,
Name it
who wouldn't
something.
wanna buy a lemonade from a stand at the club?
Well, the
Create-
new lemonade they're gonna sell is OSC branded lemonade, so it'll have their logo and stuff on the cover. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was very awesome, because Adam took this upon himself. It's not something we asked him to do, he just did it, and it's been wonderful.
We had 4 OSC alumni in Science Club,
Oh,
so
wow.
they loved it for their former school.
And you wore the lemon t-shirt
I-
tonight.
Yeah, that was why I wore it.
Yeah, that's it.
So thank you.
Very well. Contract review.
Okay, so you saw, we had a short meeting, we talked about the handbook, we talked about the board of professional development, and that was pretty much it, so you saw all that.
Curriculum.
Well, Nick gave most of what's been going on, and we have a meeting this Wednesday. So that's all.
Okay, finance and facility.
Oh, gosh, that's me. I forgot that I was chairman, sorry. Pretty much every
We
chairperson,
went through
chairwoman.
everything.
We talked about everything that we went over.
It sounds like that meeting went on for a long time.
But it was really fascinating and interesting, so it didn't feel like it was super long. It was really engaging, but yeah, there was a lot.
It's always a big meeting. Policy.
So I was trying to remember, did we have a meeting?
We did the third because.
Okay.
So
I couldn't
we've
remember
heard
if that was the board meeting I missed.
And then we talked about the possibility of looking at policy services.
We did, and you were gonna take that back to the table, right, and
Yep.
research a little bit more, just
Yep.
because some more questions
Yep.
came up from that.
And our policy meeting will be canceled for June because we have another meeting on Wednesday night instead.
And then we wouldn't have a meeting in July, so the next policy meeting's August.
Not much on it.
Yeah, so typically, just to go back to typically we don't have committee meetings in July, but because of scheduling, we're gonna have a couple of them right at the beginning of July. And then that group, those 2 committees won't meet in August, so, and then the other ones won't meet in July at all, but they'll meet in August.
Okay, future meeting and any agenda items anybody wants to add, or you can always,
I would like to add for August, just because I know July might be a little early to talk about it, but I really think we should, I mean, especially since that's possibly gonna go away after July 31st is the testing site.
right?
I just think it'd be great to start the school year with not a site at our school. There's plenty of facilities that people can go and test, and I think it would just take the pressure off of our school, our teachers, to slow down on the COVID stuff. I know it's still there, but I kind of feel like it's gonna be in the same category as any other sicknesses, and we don't test for flu and all this other stuff, so I think if people really want to get tested, they could always just go somewhere else. I don't
Right,
think
so
we need it.
So put things on the agenda, not discuss things yet.
Yeah,
So we
okay,
gotta
I
have-
just wanted to
right.
make sure that that's kind of what I was thinking, so people would know.
I have a request, I don't know if it's an agenda item, but I'm gonna start there.
Yeah.
Tell me what's on. I loved hearing from the teachers today and their excitement speaking to us, and then I was reflecting back on the listening sessions that we had
Yep.
last year and how we had that connectiveness with
We'll
them.
repeat again next fall.
Correct. And last summer, I remember receiving postcards from my kids' teachers in the summer, just saying, I hope you're having a good summer, I'm thinking about you. Would it be possible for the board to take the entire teacher list that we have, staff, and split them up, and all of us write postcards to them? Like the school come up with a postcard? I don't know, do we do like a postage machine?
Yeah, postage is no problem.
I don't know if that's an expense that has to get approved, but if we do it in July, we would have enough time for them to get it in the summer, just,
Right. So I don't think that's necessarily an agenda item, we could just do that.
I didn't know if it needed approval, but.
No problem. If that's something you'd like to do, we could just divide you up equally and randomly assign you people.
Yep.
So if we just got labels, like if you just wanted to give us a stack
you'd show up on your computer who you got, who you're sending it to.
Like
They
you're
would
talking
divide it
about
up and give it to each of us.
Other
Yeah,
postcards
could
that
we get
the school has to
postcards,
do.
like school postcards?
Yeah, so what we did in the past, we'd have to order postcards that had the Post-its on them already,
Yeah.
right? And then you just do a postcard in the back. And the question is if you want labels, is what I'm hearing. You want labels, so you can put a label on it versus having to write everybody's address on it.
Well, it would just tell us who they are, and then we would just each get 20 or 25 or however many people we
We
have.
could write our own,
If you want to give us a
addresses.
spreadsheet, we could write on there. That's fine. I didn't know what would be easier, but.
Yeah, well, let me, we'll work with Maureen and we'll figure something out.
35 for each of us. It is a great idea. Okay, we do have no reason to go back to closed session, so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
By Barb, second by Christie. Further discussion?
I do, who gets to be the one that makes the motion and second?
Thanks, everybody.
Motion.
Thank you.
Have a good night.